Hello, friends. Welcome to my Alternative Wisdom Summit. I'm your host, Pamela Davis, and I am an investigative transformationalist, which, yeah, I know, it's quite a mouthful, but what this simply means is that I am always on the lookout for information to broaden your horizons, deepen your knowledge, and help you transform your life to achieve the goals that you dream of. I was born with a ferocious curiosity. Absolutely, all my life it's been just a constant wanting to know about everything. And at a very young age, I began pursuing what you might call uncommon interests. I've devoted much of my life to the exploration of great wonders and mysteries, and I've been fortunate to work on amazing projects around the world. Projects like psychic archaeology, consciousness studies, and research into life after death. And I've seen the exciting transformation that can follow when one of those doors of perception, as Aldous Huxley called it, the doors of perception, or the doors of understanding, open up in our lives. I've actually experienced this excitement in my life. And time and again, I've witnessed transformation in the lives of others, which is why I'm here with you today, inviting you to step through one of those doors with me right now. However, before we get started, there are two items of business or procedure that we need to cover. First, in order for you to get full benefit of this interview, please browse to Dada Nabhaniilananda's page, and you do that by typing into your browser address bar www.alternativewisdomsummit.com/monkdude, and that's M as in Mary, ONKDUDE, like all one word. You'll know you're on the right screen when you see the photo of our guest, Dada Nabhaniilananda. There are multiple things you can do on this page, but right now all I want you to do is locate the box for audience comments and type in the geographical location where you're viewing from, because we'd love to know that. And then if you hear some little gem in this upcoming interview that you really like, and I'm sure that you will, there are going to be a lot of those, and you want to share your thoughts with others, we'd love to hear from you. Also, if you have questions about meditation or spirituality or something else that comes up in this interview, this is where you can submit questions. Now, secondly, Dada will be giving you a free gift as a thank you for being on this interview, and he'll tell you more about that in just a moment. But first, I'm going to tell you a little bit about him. Dada Nabhaniilananda, also known as the Monk Dude, is a yoga monk, a musician, a meditation instructor, and an author. He was born in New Zealand in 1955 and was ordained in India as a yoga monk in 1979. Since then, he has published a marvelous and understandably popular book on meditation called Close Your Eyes and Open Your Mind, which is used by teachers all over the world. He has won 8 international songwriting awards and performed and lectured in more than 40 countries, including Brazil, where he appeared on stage with the Dalai Lama and performed for before more than 10,000 people at the 1992 Earth Summit. Dada currently runs the Ananda Marga Yoga Center in Los Altos Hills, California, and teaches a course in meditation and the way of Tantra at UC Berkeley. So welcome, Dada.
Great to be on the show with you, Pamela. Thanks so much for inviting me.
Oh, well, you're entirely welcome. I'm so pleased to have you. And this, I've never put together so many questions for a guest ever.
Well, I hope we have time for them all.
We're just going to have to really rip through this and try to get, wonderful questions, because your material is so amazing. So, Dada, first of all, tell us how you became a yogi. What would make a young man from New Zealand choose such a course in life?
Well, I didn't start out wanting to be a yogi or a monk. If you told me when I was younger that I was going to end up doing this, I would have thought you'd lost your last marble. It was the furthest thing from my mind. I was an atheist. I was a peace activist following in the footsteps of my parents. I was very much into music and art and creative writing. But when I was 19 years old, I was at university, and I had an extraordinary spiritual epiphany, and it changed everything for me. It was, yeah, the turning point of my life. It was out of the blue. As I said, I was an atheist before that, so afterwards I wasn't.
That's amazing. I knew that you had an epiphany and so on, but there's nothing in the material that said you had been an atheist. That's a huge leap.
Yeah, it turned my whole worldview on its head. It took me a while to kind of reassess everything. I started reading voraciously, trying to understand what this experience was. And I remember the first book actually I read was the Varieties of Religious Experience, which is a wonderful book. And then I read Autobiography of a Yogi, a lot of books on Buddhism and Taoism, Sufism and Christian mysticism, and I, quickly understood that there is one universal truth underlying all of these great traditions. And I was particularly attracted to the path of yoga. I actually felt that I'd been contacted in this kind of experience I had by a yogi in India.
That's fabulous. And so then you went to India, right?
Yeah, a little later. I went there in 1979 where I met my guru. His name was Sri Sri Anandamurti.
And so your path just changed so radically. I love that.
Yeah, it was a bit of a shock to me and to my parents and friends, as you can imagine.
Yeah, I can really imagine. I have a son who all of a sudden decided just, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago that he was going to become a Buddhist and teach Buddhism. And he's developing an international investment company, and he teaches, he's had initiations, and he teaches Dzogchen Buddhism. That was quite a surprise to me, too. So in your book, Close Your Eyes and Open Your Mind, you say that meditation is the process of concentrating the mind on the source of consciousness within us. Gradually, this leads us to discover the infinity of our own consciousness. This is why the goal of meditation is often described as self-realization. So, Dada, what is self-realization?
It's understanding what the true self is. You can say the unchanging self. So everyone has a sense of self. That's one thing we all have in common. We're different in practically every other way, but we all have this sense of existence. And we kind of, not only do we know that we exist, because even a dog apparently seems to know that it exists, but a human being knows, we know that we exist. So we have what we call self-awareness and the knowledge of self-awareness. So self-realization is really experiencing that this unchanging source of consciousness within us, that's the true self. And that we are connected with everything, that our true self is actually infinite. In a sense, you could say that self-realization is realizing that actually we are God.
Yeah. And, I had a Hindu guru, as I mentioned to you some time ago, and there are so many amazing, I studied with him for 7 years, and there are so many memorable things that have stayed with me. But I remember how he talked about that God particle within us, and that the Hindus call it the non-difference difference. Is that a term familiar to you?
Actually not.
Really? Well, that God, yes, God is within us, but we are God and we are not God. The non-difference difference.
I'm familiar with the concept. So, of course, well, the way I put it is sometimes like this, that a lot of people sort of say, well, do I need a teacher when God is within me? Why can't I just learn from my inner self? And so, in a sense, in one way we are God, but at the same time we're not aware of it.
Right.
And the problem is that it's like we have this incredible treasure. It's a priceless treasure, and it's in a you know, as treasures kept in a box, but the box is locked. And we have a key, but our key is also locked in the box.
I like that.
And the guru's job, well, the guru has a spare key.
Yeah.
So a teacher or some, you know, a great teacher, you know, helps you to get access to that which you already possess.
It's amazing how a great teacher, and I've had a couple, how they can change your whole vision of yourself or your life or a situation by moving. It's like moving you over just 2 degrees, 3 degrees, one direction or another, to look at what you're looking at, and suddenly you see it entirely differently. It's like, you know, it's like an epiphany.
Mm-hmm.
And with their wisdom and their ability to shift that perspective, I think that's a huge part of it.
Yeah, I mean, I just remember I would go to India during the 1980s every year to see my guru, often twice a year. And it was, you know, it was a bit of an ordeal going to India, especially in those days. It was sometimes quite a lot of hassle. But there would always be a moment when I was there that made it clear why I had gone. And I remember one time I was there, and there was quite a large number of us in the room, and just I was watching our guru speak, and then he just kind of looked at me for a second, and my whole state of mind suddenly changed. I just felt that that moment was the perfect moment, and that everything in the universe was perfect and exactly as it should be, and any feeling that I'd ever had that it was not was a delusion.
Yeah, that's so powerful. That's really beautiful. You know, when you talk about meditation, which you've been teaching now for a long time, it really, it shouldn't, I guess, but it kind of bothers me when people think that this is something that you should learn to do to relax. You know, that this is your anti-stress solution, which of course it is, but there doesn't seem to be a lot of stress on other aspects, you know, on the larger aspect. And I'm sure, as you pointed out too in your marvelous book, let's see, what did he say that meditation was, it says that the sages of ancient India developed methods of meditation at a time when relaxation and stress management were not the primary concerns of humankind. And it evolved as a response to the human yearning to know the inner self, to know the mystical spiritual world. So what do you say to people who come to you for meditation? What do you promise that you're going to teach them or give them?
How to know themselves, how to be happy. You know, stress management is really the first step for a lot of people, because we live in a very different era than when all we had to worry about was saber-toothed tigers and where the next meal's coming from. Now we have, you know, endless, what a friend of mine calls weapons of mass distraction.
Oh, isn't that the truth?
So Swami Beyondananda, if you know him, a very great comedian.
Oh, yes.
Good friend of mine. So that's his, I think that's his term. Anyway, so people today are suffering extraordinary, unnatural levels of stress and distraction, and so it becomes very hard to focus and concentrate. So that's the first problem a lot of people come to me with. Or it may be a physical problem resulting from that, maybe high blood pressure, or they can't sleep, or, you know, other kind of issues. And meditation is a very powerful way of addressing those. But I very quickly tell people, look, that's just the first thing. And if you really want to get what's the real value of meditation, it'll take you much deeper than that. And actually a lot of the students that come to me, they kind of know that already, because they know that I'm a spiritual teacher. They know it's something to do with spirituality. They're not stupid. But at the same time, they do need to address that problem of being stressed and distracted and their minds being restless. So the first thing they usually experience is that their minds become calmer, they begin to sense some sort of inner peace, but then the real work begins. And that's much more interesting. Stuff like, finding their real life's purpose and beginning to feel a deeper connection with their spiritual self.
Well, in your wonderful book, you say that humanity needs a new vision. Boy, that's quite a mouthful. So, how can the practice of meditation change the world?
Well, if you look around at all of the problems in the world today, there's no shortage. I think a great proportion of them are caused by human beings. And so we can say that most of our problems are the result of human ignorance, human greed, human selfishness, things like hatred, anger, narrow-mindedness. These are all internal problems, ultimately. And the outward expression of them is suffering and chaos and war and division and exploitation. If we want to really find a long-term solution to all of these external problems and all this suffering, I think we have to change. There's a good side to human nature which we can cultivate through meditation. The spiritual path for me is a great deal of it's about cultivating our better qualities, like love and compassion and understanding and tolerance and all of these things that make living with you a good experience and living with yourself, and we can control things like greed and anger and hatred and negative qualities. And the more people that do that, the more we'll see that the way that we the way that we express ourselves and work together and treat one another is going to change. So, I believe in basically a two-pronged approach. I think we need to be actively engaged in the world, helping people with immediate problems. At the same time, we need to be working on ourselves so that we become better people, and the future of the human race is more likely to be a bright one.
Oh, I agree. I agree. That was something that what you just mentioned about a three-pronged approach was something that I wasn't expecting to find in your book, because I don't know when I've read a better book in recent years. I was so impressed, because it's so much more than just about, well, here's all about meditation, which it is. But aside from that, you go into the ramifications of meditation and how it affects so many facets of our lives and could affect and transform us and the world that we're very busy co-creating. And I was very pleased to find your progressive philosophy much in evidence, and realizing that until we come to understand that when we look into the eyes of another person, we're looking into our own eyes.
Nicely put, yeah.
We're going to have, nothing but trouble on varying levels and to varying degrees. Of course, if we understood karma a little bit better, and we understood that, those we abuse, we better look out, because we may find ourselves in that exact same situation the next time around on the receiving end. That might have something. I think that would have a far greater deterrent than the death penalty. What do you think?
Well, yeah, if people realize that when they're acting, in the end it comes back to us. That can, if you really understand that, it changes the way that you see the world and the way that you behave.
Well, we all know about what instant karma is, but there's a lot of long-term karma too that that we generate as we create the future that we're going to be living, both in this life and in others. So I think that meditation is a way to begin to get a handle on the larger aspects of ourselves and our consciousness, don't you?
Of course, yes. And as I say, I think it's there has been a tendency for people to treat meditation as something that's just for self-realization. and it's just about me developing spiritually and walking on my path to enlightenment. But this is actually, I think, a misunderstanding of the whole spiritual tradition. I mean, it's the idea in Tibetan Buddhism, for example, of the bodhisattva,
Right.
as somebody who actually sacrifices their own spiritual liberation in order to serve all of the living beings. That, to me, really expresses the spirit of love, of universal love, which is what it's supposed to be all about. So the idea that meditation is just an individual practice and it's somehow divorced from the rest of our lives, I think is a complete misunderstanding.
Oh, I think so too. And I love it that you mentioned the whole concept of the bodhisattva, which is so precious to me. I just that's what I aspire to be one day. Who knows how long that's going to take. Spirituality, it says, here's a quote from your book. Spirituality is that which concerns infinite consciousness. Let me make it clear that spirituality should not be confused with spiritualism, which involves itself with mediums, psychics, or communicating with the dead. Spirituality concerns infinite consciousness, the same ultimate truth as realized by the great spiritual teachers throughout history, such as Buddha, Jesus, and Krishna. Spiritual philosophy espouses that the goal of life is to merge the individual mind into infinite consciousness. The way to attain this is through the practice of spiritual meditation. So here you've got a lovely contrast of what we've been talking about the physical benefits of meditation and spiritual meditation, which opens up a whole universe of possibilities. You know, I remember, I'm sure you do, Maharishi and the Beatles popularizing meditation beginning in the 60s. And now you've got different styles of yoga that are becoming more and more popular too, especially with stars like Madonna and Gwyneth Paltrow and so many others raving about the benefits of their various types of yoga. What is the difference between meditation and yoga?
So yoga is actually, the real meaning of yoga is union. And it describes a whole spiritual lifestyle and philosophy. But the way that the word yoga has come to be understood commonly is that it's just this set of exercises which typically middle-class ladies go to in order to stay slim, let's be honest.
Right.
And but that is, firstly, that's not really the main purpose of yoga, though it does have that side effect if you practice it. But yoga is much broader than that. So the physical exercises of yoga, they're known as asanas or postures, and that's one of the 8 limbs of yoga. The other 7 limbs are mostly meditation techniques, or related to meditation techniques. But the first 2 actually are jhama and niyama. It means abstinences and observances, things we should do, or things we shouldn't do rather in life, and things we should do in order to be a better person and a happier person. And I was giving a talk at Google recently, and I was thinking, how am I going to communicate this kind of sophisticated spiritual practice model to all these tech people? And I suddenly realized jhama, the first of the 8 limbs of yoga, could translate as "don't be evil," which is Google's motto.
Oh.
And I told them that, and they all know the motto very well. So they realized that their company, the basic principle, that was the founding principle of their company, is actually the first limb of the Ashtanga yoga system, the 8-limbed yoga system.
Well, then there's really hope.
If they practice it, yeah, definitely.
You know, one thing that delighted me too about your book was you chose some really wonderful quotes, and I have come across over the years quotes from Albert Einstein, and it just is so tiresome when people keep insisting that he didn't have spiritual beliefs and he was an atheist, which is obviously not true. And he says in here, the most beautiful and most profound emotion we can experience is the sensation of the mystical. It is at the root of all true science. Someone to whom this emotion is a stranger, who can no longer stand wrapped in awe, is as good as dead. That deeply emotional conviction of the presence of a superior reasoning power, which is revealed in the incomprehensible universe, is my idea of God. So I'm really going to keep this one on hand.
It's one of my favorite quotes.
So you've got all this wonderful information about these other scientists who were interested in mysticism, physicists, Nobel Prize winning, how they went to visit Rabindranath Tagore in India, who won the Nobel Prize, and so how would you? Mysticism to me is just the most beautiful of all aspects of all religions. So what do you have to say about mysticism? How would you define it, explain it? What is it to you?
Well, you mentioned just earlier that you like my philosophy expressed on my book. I have to say, it's not my philosophy. This is really everything, my way of expressing what I learned from my guru. So these ideas they're not original to me at all. And his definition of mysticism is something like this, that it's the never-ending effort to bridge the gap between the finite and the infinite.
Oh, that's great. That's beautiful.
So mysticism literally means going into exploring the mystery of life, that which we can't conceive of, but we sense that it's there.
Right, right. Ah, the mysteries. Just love that. You know, another thing too that I think is very sad in our culture is how religion has soured people about spirituality. And when you talk about spirituality, people who really haven't gotten into this assume you're talking about religion. And of course, nothing could be further from the truth. Spirituality is what religion originally was with the founders, like Buddha, Krishna, Jesus. And religion is in some cases, the abomination that finally emerged centuries later for political, strategic reasons and so on. We all know that. So to you, what is the difference between spirituality and religion?
Well, this is a huge subject, but and of course I get asked about it and I have to talk about it a lot. You know, there's a saying that religion has given God a bad name. So, of course, first thing I want to say is this doesn't apply to all religions. I think many religions have brought beautiful gifts to society and to civilization. But there are aspects of many religions that are definitely exploitative and dogmatic and have a negative effect.
Right.
So, in distinguishing the two, well, a simple way to put it might be to say that spirituality is more about what you do. So it's about a practice and actually implementing beliefs in your action. So, for example, what defines a yogi isn't that they believe in a particular thing, it's that they meditate and that they practice yoga and they follow the principles like don't be evil and do be good, and they're living it. So a religion is usually defined by what you believe in, even if you don't actually follow it. And to me that's a huge difference.
Oh, it really is.
You know, saying I believe this is easy, actually living according to that principle is what spirituality is about.
Very true. Actually, some of the most spiritual people I know claim to be atheists. They really don't get it. You know, I mean, they have these wonderful, compassionate attitudes toward life. They're very helpful. They're kind. They believe in nonviolence. I mean, they're wonderful people, and yet they don't know that that really is the expression of spirit, of their spirit selves. Very sad, I think.
Well, as long as if they're happy, it's not too bad, I think.
Well, I guess, yeah. As long
one of my heroes is Nelson Mandela, and he was an atheist. but I consider him a very spiritual person.
Well, yeah, exactly. That's the kind of thing I'm talking about. Well, what is the difference between prayer and meditation?
Well, again, we sort of have to define terms here. So prayer can mean many things, and there's a spectrum going from the very sort of mundane, asking God for things, give me a nice BMW, to the much more subtle, what's called contemplative prayer, which is like a communication with God. So meditation is sort of down that end of the spectrum, where meditation is about going inward and connecting with your inner spiritual essence or the soul or the reflection of the divine within you. So some kinds of prayer might be pretty much the same thing. But prayers that are what's called intercessionary prayer, or trying to intercede, or asking God to intercede rather, in your life to make it better, to me that's kind of, well, it doesn't make sense. Because if you really believe in God, and God is perfect, and everything in the universe is perfect, and God kind of knows what he's doing, he's supposed to be omniscient and omnivorous, not omnivorous, omniscient and omnipotent and omnipresent, right? Wouldn't an entity like that actually know better than you about how to run things? Does God need our advice on how to manage the universe? Inviting God or asking God to intercede in your life is like trying to tell him what to do. And to me, that's not very humble, and it doesn't show very much faith. Because if you don't have the faith that God actually knows better than you, not much of a God.
Well, isn't that the truth? And then you've got, I mean, there's all kinds of there are lots of things in so many religions that bear that out. You've got also the Lord's Prayer, where Jesus said, supposedly the night that he was arrested, "Thy will be done," which really implies that that everything is in perfect and divine order, right?
Yeah, it's a bit of a paradox. On the one hand, I certainly believe that and have experienced that in so many ways. At the same time, it doesn't mean we should just do nothing.
Oh, right.
The implication is not that we should be passive, but rather, if we, what was the famous sort of little story of, somebody saying, there's so much suffering in the world, God, why don't you do something? And God says, well, yeah, I made you.
I was just going to read that quotation. I took it out of your book. It says, let me, this is so beautiful. It's an old Sufi saying, "Past the beggar and the suffering walks he who asks, 'Why, O God, do you not do something for these people?' To which God replied, 'I did do something. I made you.'" See, I love that so much I had to bring that into our questions. So how does meditation help us relate to those in pain and suffering?
Well, it does two important things. Firstly, it expands your sense of self. So the more you meditate, the more you feel that my self is the same as the next person's self. And that what each of us experience as awareness is a reflection of one universal awareness. So we really begin to sense this kind of oneness and connection and find that our relationships improve. That's a nice side effect a lot of people enjoy. They find that they like people more. And as a result, of course, people like them more. And not just people, but the world and plants and animals and your pet frog. So we feel more loving. But the problem is, of course, is that then we sort of also feel more concern about suffering. And that can be painful. And make us feel sad. So the second effect that meditation has that really sort of balances that is it gives you this feeling of connection to the divine, and you sense that in spite of all this suffering there is a higher purpose to it all, and that ultimately the power that is guiding the universe is benevolent. And even though there is suffering, it's all a learning experience, and I'm put here to try and help other people through it in whatever way I can. So it brings an internal harmony and a sense of connection, which is very powerful and empowering. So it increases your ability to actually do something effective to help other people.
And I think meditation also gives you the spiritual strength so that you don't become, or you tend less to be overwhelmed by situations and circumstances that you might perceive as painful. You can't be very effective as a rescue worker if you're going to be overwhelmed by it, right?
Exactly. And in India, there's been quite a lot of bad catastrophes over the years in India, and we have a very strong relief team there, so disaster relief team. And when there were floods in Bangladesh, I remember it was our relief team that went in, and we're dealing with all the dead bodies.
Oh.
Because most people couldn't handle it. But our monks were there, and they kind of, okay, it's a dead body. They kind of took it in their stride.
Yeah.
And most people really can't cope with that sort of thing easily.
Oh, that's beautiful.
But if you've got this kind of sense of connection to your inner core, then you can, like you say, you can handle all kind of circumstances.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to have to come back to this in just a second because I've got to break away for just a moment to talk to our viewers. And for those of you who joined in late, I'll repeat what I said earlier. If you aren't already on Dada's audience dashboard page, then you need to go there now. In the address box of your web browser, type in this address, www.alternativewisdomsummit.com/monkdude, and that's MONKDUDE, all one word. So you'll know that you're on the right page when you see the words audience dashboard, and you can see the photo of our guest, Dada Nabhaniilananda. Friends, Dada has a free gift, especially for you, as a thank you for joining us here today on this interview. Dada, your free gift, your free thank you gift, is called the Revolution of Love Collection, which is a video and 2 MP3s. In a sentence or two, could you please describe for our viewers what they're getting today in your Revolution of Love thank you gift?
Sure. So the Revolution of Love is the title of a talk I gave as a TEDx talk in New York. And I have to say it's probably the best talk I've ever given in my life, and I sing a song in it, and you get the video of that part of the package. And the other 2 MP3s are sunrise meditation and sunset meditation. So those are with some beautiful music, recorded chanting, leading into a guided meditation, and it's really a perfect way for anyone to get started meditating right away. So I want everybody to start meditating or continue if they're doing it already. So that's why I give these away so people can practice.
Well, this is a really wonderful thank you gift. I've seen the talk. The talk is brilliant and so engaging and touching. I think it must have had a beautiful effect on the audience there, and the meditations too are just beautiful. So thank you. That's a very generous and very helpful gift for our viewers. So friends, I'll tell you in a few moments how to get your free thank you gift, but while you're on this page, I want you to find the special offer button. It's big and it's orange, so it's easy to find. Click on the special offer button now. You'll know you're on the right page when you see the word special offer followed by the words Dada Nabhaniilananda's Meditation Home Study Course Package. Now, on this page, you can read all about the exclusive special offer that Dada has put together only for you for joining us on this interview today. Dada, your package is called Dada Nabhaniilananda's Meditation Home Study Course Package. The study Home Study Course Package. Now, in 2 or 3 sentences, please tell our viewers a little bit about what's in your special offer package that you and your team have put together for our audience.
Well, there's a whole bunch of stuff, but the core of it is the meditation home study course that I put together. It's based on my book. So it's an 8-week course, including a workbook and the book itself, an audio version of the book so you can listen to it in your car, and there's a set of 8 guided meditation recordings with the music. So you can really dig in and start meditating regularly, but at the end of the 2-month course, you should have a really solid meditation practice. In addition to that, there's a whole lot of other stuff. There's more videos. I think there's another 8 videos explaining different aspects of meditation, different tips to make it easier. And there's a lot of my music. There's 3 albums of chanting and 3 albums of my own songs. And so the whole bundle of material in there if you want to start benefiting from the experience of your own meditation.
Well, and let me remind our viewers, too, that you are an award-winning songwriter, and the music, I just put it on and listened to all of it as I was making notes and doing other kinds of work. I mean, the music that Dada is offering in this package is just, it's beautiful. It's inspirational. The production quality is fabulous. It's done so well. And I can't imagine anybody who wouldn't just really love it. So there's a tremendous amount to enjoy in this wonderful package. So thank you, Dada, for your generous package that you put together.
Well, I just hope it helps people to start practicing, because that's what makes the real difference is inside. And I use music because it's the language of emotion, and meditation is as much about feeling as it is about thinking. So if we can get into the right emotional state quickly with the right music, then it becomes much easier to meditate.
Well, also I think that here in the West we're very tuned to music. Everybody seems to be interested in music, and I think that this is a wonderful way to support people and enhance their experience. And it's kind of like that a delicious carrot in front of the donkey, you know? So it's just a great collection. I love it. Now, friends, if you'd like to take Dada up on his special offer at this exclusive 90% discount. Now, there are like 47 MP3s in here and 8 DVDs and all. I mean, it's huge. So you've got a 90% discount on this wonderful collection. So scroll to the top of the screen and click on the Add to Cart button. The rest is easy. Just fill in the form and click on the Submit Order button. And remember that in a moment, I'll be telling you how to claim Dada's free gift just for viewing this interview. So Dada, one of my favorite quotes that certainly seems to apply to what we're talking about today is from Socrates, who famously said, "The unexamined life is not worth living." So how does this relate to meditation?
Well, I think Socrates is a pretty smart guy, and I guess what he's talking about is curiosity. You know, human beings are naturally curious, not just humans. You know, if you have a kitten or if you've seen certain animals, you know, it's a very important trait, that of curiosity. So if we're going to be curious, I think it's very important to remember that, you know, the world around us is one area we might be curious about, but what about our inner world? This half of our lives, if you like, the whole internal part of our lives, examining that, as Socrates indicates, is, to me, a huge amount to do with what life's about. So if we don't do that, we're kind of missed out on you know, where, in a sense, all of our experience actually comes from.
Well, it would be difficult to find and identify your life's purpose, and we all have one, if you don't do that inner examination, if you don't give rein to your curiosity and really try to understand, you know?
I think so.
Now, that also has to do, though, with ego. You know, in one of your books you wrote, the ego is only the visible portion of the iceberg that is the self. And to remain oblivious to the far greater submerged part is as dangerous for us as it was for the Titanic on its ill-fated crossing of the Atlantic. So talk to us about that troublesome ego.
Well, I've got one. I don't know about you.
Oh, yeah.
We've all met people who, they may be very accomplished people, maybe a university professor or a CEO or somebody with a lot of money. We've all met people who have maybe accomplished a lot in the world externally in terms of people's regard, but seem to have forgotten something in the process, and that is that on a spiritual level they're the same as everybody else. So this tendency to develop a sense of egotism or superiority is a very dangerous tendency, and it's very normal, especially if you're intelligent or people look up to you for some reason, if you have some special talent. So I think
Oh,
it's really
not at
important.
all. Not at all. Like, people like, oh, initials KK recently. People like this that the media just loves to puff into, outrageous proportions. So I'm sorry to interrupt. Please go ahead.
Yeah, so there is this tendency, that we can fall into this kind of self-delusion that we're better than other people, or we're smarter, or we're somehow special. And one of the things I like about meditation is that it helps us to see ourselves as we really are. And that's a good thing. I mean, you get you see this divine essence, but you also understand that everybody has this. And what makes you really special is the thing that makes everybody special. And all the other things, they're not so important. And there's no reason to get a puffed head about it. So the ego and understanding the self, it's very critical to your personal development.
But the interesting thing about the ego is that, we need the ego or a sense of self at some level to get us from one day to the next. It's sort of like an organizational principle.
Yeah, the ego is not something evil. It's when it develops into egotism and
Right.
egocentricity that it becomes a problem. But we can't do anything without the ego, and anyone who achieves anything can only do that if they have a strong ego, a strong sense of self-confidence and self-worth.
Very true. Very, very true. Now, you quote your guru, Sri Anandamurti, right? He was your guru, who said, a truly benevolent society, oh, I love this. Okay. A truly benevolent society will never come into being under the leadership of those who are solely concerned with profit and loss. Where love is paramount, the question of personal loss and gain does not arise. The basic ingredient for building a healthy society is simply love. Well, how are we doing so far?
We have a fair bit to learn. That's I love this quote, of course, and it's very much in my mind because I'm beginning to work with people who are in positions of leadership in corporations, particularly, and I am always looking for ways to, gently remind them that their decisions have a big impact on a lot of people, and they're in a position to either do a lot of good or to do a lot of damage. And it's kind of encouraging to see that there are more and more leaders who feel that that responsibility and acting in a better way. I was quite pleased actually when Tim Cook, the CEO of Apple, recently told his shareholders at a meeting. He said, "Look, if you don't believe in the science behind climate change, you don't belong in Apple. Please get out and sell your shares."
Really?
Yeah, and that was in February. And of course, he was in a very strong position. He's an avid environmentalist, and he's shifted the recyclability of Apple products radically since he became CEO. But I'm not saying he's a saint or anything, but on this issue, he really is using his position very effectively to do a lot of good. So there are examples like that. There aren't nearly enough of them, part of my personal mission nowadays is to try and influence people in those kind of companies whose decisions have a lot of repercussions on us and on the planet.
Well, I think it's wonderful now that these opportunities are coming to you that are going to enable you, or that have begun to enable you to spread that philosophy and that value system. That's really great. We need that so much. So congratulations.
Well, it's just beginning, and but I'm kind of excited about it. Yeah.
Great, 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 great. All right, let me take a moment to remind you, audience members, that by now you should have been to the special offer page. If you haven't, here's the link to Dada's webpage for this interview: www.alternativewisdomsummit.com/monkdude, MONKDUDE. And on this page, look for the special offer button, then click on that special offer button now. On this special offer page, you can read all about the exclusive special offer that Dada has generously put together with so many wonderful items. Now, for example, you take a look at item number 1, the home study course, including 16 MP3s and 2 PDFs. Remember when Dada spoke about spirituality? Well, this is where you get everything he has to say about meditation and self-realization, plus all the dozens of mental, physical, and emotional benefits you'll enjoy as you develop the skills to go deeper into your meditation practice, no matter what stage you're at right now. Whether you're a beginner or a long-time meditator, there are myriad gems in this package for everyone. So go ahead, take a look, and take advantage of Dada's special offer at this fabulous and exclusive 90% discount. Click on the Add to Cart button now. The rest is easy. Just fill in the form and click on the Submit Order button. So, Dada, let's see. Oh, there are so many wonderful things to talk about here. Now, you're a musician and a writer and a yogi. How can meditation and yoga help creative artists deepen and expand their creativity?
When I first learned meditation, I was already a musician. I've been playing music since I was 4 years old. But I didn't have any idea that meditation was somehow related to my music. But I very quickly discovered that just naturally, through practicing meditation, I seem to be tapping into whatever part of my mind produces ideas, creative ideas, and new music and poetry. I just experienced that meditation helps you to tap into the creative source within you. And this is what, a lot of artists and scientists too have wondered about for centuries. What is the source of creativity? And the Greeks, they had this idea of the muses. They personified the sort of goddesses of creativity. But my experience is that, of course, there's a part of the mind, or there's a certain state in which we are more creative, and meditation definitely helps to put us in that state. Now, the other thing that we notice about a lot of artists is, if they're very creative, a lot of them are also somewhat emotionally unstable. You probably know.
Yeah.
Right? You've probably got friends. There are certainly a lot of famous, Van Gogh and a lot of suffering artists.
Yes.
And this is kind of very close to my heart because somebody very close to me actually developed a really serious mental disorder and ended up taking his own life.
Yeah.
And he was a very brilliant artist, and a musician and a ceramic artist. And there are many, many cases like that. Bipolar condition is very common amongst creative people. And from studying the psychology of yoga and the different practices, I realized that why these things tend to come together and how you can prevent that through the right kinds of meditation and yoga techniques. So that's actually part of my motive for particularly propagating a sort of balanced meditation practice to, or offering it to creative people, because it can help them to avoid those kind of emotional pitfalls that a lot of artists fall into.
So meditation can strengthen artists and enhance their creativity, but in a broader sense, tell us how meditation can empower us. I'm all about empowerment this year. I think this is the year to really, really think about empowerment on the largest possible scale. So how does meditation empower us?
Well, it very simply, it enables, it's a tool. And I'm talking about the whole package of meditation. You know, the yoga exercises, the different techniques that we teach in the eight-limbed yoga, the whole lifestyle. If you follow that, it's a technology for conscious evolution. It's a system of practices and a whole lifestyle that enables you to tap into your fullest potential and to develop it and to become the most effective, you know, intelligent, clear-minded, creative, compassionate, wise person that you can be.
And who
And I
would
don't know anything more powerful than that.
No, you can't get more powerful than that. Well, why don't you, I see behind you that you have your guitar, and being the creative composer that you are, and musician and singer, would you like to perform something for us in the course of this interview right now?
Well, you know what would be, yeah, sure, of course. I'm always happy to play my guitar. uh, we could do a little guided meditation. Have we got time for that? How much time have we got?
Enough if it's not too long.
Let's take 5 minutes, 3-4 minutes, even 3-4 minutes.
Okay.
Let me grab my guitar. So this is my friend who has brought a lot of joy to me and hopefully to other people.
I'm sure.
Okay, so we're going to do a very simple little chant and a guided meditation. And this is a little taste of some of the things you get in my teaching package and so forth. So we're going to use a mantra. So a mantra is a phrase, or usually in Sanskrit, which we repeat through chanting and then in silent meditation. So the mantra we're going to use has 3 words. They are Baba, Nam, Kevalam. Baba, Nam, Kevalam. So Baba, Nam, Kevalam.
Kevalam.
Very good. So Baba, Nam, Kevalam roughly translates as love is everything, or love is all there is. So it's the idea is that we're tapping into this source of love within us, and it's within everybody. So what I want you to do, all of you listeners, and you, Pamela, also a listener at the moment, just close your eyes, and I'll just sing the mantra for a couple of minutes, and then I'll guide you through a little meditation. Baba Nam Kevalam, 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 Baba Kevalam, Baba Kevalam. Just keep your eyes closed. Sit straight with your hands cupped in your lap, your feet flat on the floor. your thumbs together and breathe naturally through your nose if you can. And let the mantra Bhavanam Kevalam with the music continue in your mind as though you're hearing it rather than trying to repeat it. You're just listening to it. And feel that this music and this mantra is being sung to you by your own inner self, as though the deeper, wiser part of you were bringing you this message through this music, reminding you of something very important. It's reminding you that at the center of yourself is the perfect place. It's the source of love, happiness, harmony, and your sense of connection to God and to everybody else. So the mantra and the music is drawing you inward to your divine essence. So just continue listening to the mantra for a minute now and feel that it's bringing you home to your true self. Kevalam, Bhavanam, Kevalam. You can open your eyes now if you like. So there's just a little taste of something that you can practice every day.
Well, you know, that took such a short time, and yet I definitely feel different than I did when we started, and it was just moments ago. So
do I.
that's a very powerful experience.
But I must say, if you're listening to this and from that little tiny taste, I mean, it was like 3 minutes or something, you don't feel anything, don't worry, because that really is a ridiculously short meditation. Usually it takes quite a lot longer to begin to feel something. But really anybody can do this if they just start practicing it on their own.
Yes, and you've given us all the tools in this wonderful package to get started or to deepen the practice for those who've been meditating for a while. So it's a treasure, and one that is so timely, something that, with everything going on in the world and all the unrest and trouble, difficulties that accumulated bad judgments have now brought to our attention, we really need the serenity and the strength that we can derive from a good, solid meditative practice. So I'm so glad, Dada, that I was able to have you now with me today. And as I said, I still have I have a list of questions that just goes on, and some that I'm so sorry I'm not going to be able to ask you because they're really good questions. But we are out of time, and I have to give some important information to our audience. All right, this is how you, friends, get your free thank you gift. You need to be on the audience dashboard webpage. And in case you haven't seen this page yet, it's located at www.alternativewisdomsummit.com/monkjude. To get to the thank you gift, click on the special offer button on the special offer page, and then scroll down and look for the box with the red dotted lines that has the heading Dada Nabhaniilananda's Thank You Gift. Fill in your name, email address, and click the send button, and within moments we'll automatically send you your link to Dada's Thank You Gift. For you that joined this interview late and missed some of what we spoke about, don't worry. We'll be posting the replay in a few minutes, and we'll leave it up for 48 hours. If you want to share this 48-hour free replay with a friend, please send them to www.alternativewisdomsummit.com. Also, if you haven't already done so, now is the time to take advantage of Dada's special offer, because this is something you really do need to enrich your life on so many levels with a wealth of wonderful information and insightful wisdom. You'll get in-depth training to benefit your mind, your soul, and your body, plus so much beautiful and inspiring original music. So take advantage of this exclusive 90% discount. Click on the Add to Cart button now. The rest is easy. Just fill in the form and click on the Submit Order button. Friends, thank you for joining me on this interview. And Dada, thank you so much for sharing your inspiration, your knowledge, your profound insights, and your music with us today.
It's been a real pleasure. Thank you so much for inviting me. And you know, if you're wanting to explore meditation and develop your self-knowledge, enjoy it. Don't, you know, it's not supposed to be a serious, painful endeavor. It should be. I believe in bringing humor and music and all these things into it, and that's a big part of what life's about for me.
Oh, it really is. I did chuckle that in so many places, both reading your wonderful book and listening to you. It is really a joyful experience. So again, let me thank you for bringing that to us and give us the opportunity to really get into it. So thanks again, Dada.
Thanks, Pamela.
All right, friends, that's all for now. This is the Alternative Wisdom Summit, and I'm Pamela Davis, sending you blessings and best wishes. Bye-bye.